Hello everyone, and welcome back to another resource pack tutorial. Today we're going to cover how you can get custom items, armor, and elytra like the Hermits over on Hermitcraft, as well as all of us over on Rotten Block, using a data pack made by you and Howell called Model Applier. Now, as of the time of recording, I believe this data pack was developed specifically with Hermitcraft Season 11 in mind, and it will work with any of the versions of Minecraft between 121.9 and 121.11. I'm hoping that this video can be informative for a wide range of experience levels and expertise. Please feel free to skip around and use the timestamps on screen if there's a specific section that applies to you more than another. Also, please remember to give this video a like if you do end up finding the information helpful, leave a comment below to let me know how I'm doing, and don't forget to subscribe for future resource pack tutorial content. Before we start discussing models at all, let's first get our resource pack created so we can start to place our assets in their correct locations. Go on and head to the resource packs folder of your Minecraft installation. The easiest way to do this is to access the folder from in-game by going to Options, Resource Packs, and then clicking on the Open Pack Folder button. Now you should have had a File Explorer window pop up. Go ahead and right-click in any empty space, go to New, and then click to create a new folder. It won't matter what you call the folder, but whatever you choose is how you will see the pack in-game. For the purposes of this tutorial video, we're going to be using this Model Applier tutorial folder. If we go ahead and double click that twice, we're going to open it up and head inside. And inside, we're going to find this pack.mcmeta file that I've put here. This file is actually very important because it tells Minecraft that this is a resource pack. To make one yourself, we're going to once again right click in an empty space and go to New. But this time we're going to go ahead and click on Text Document. Go ahead and hit Ctrl A to select the entire text and type in pack.mcmeta. Now you're going to see that it's going to ask if you want to change the file name extension because we are technically changing this file from one file type to another. Go ahead and click Yes to confirm the change to an mcmeta file, and then double click the file to open it up in your text editor of choice. Inside of our pack.mcmeta file, we need to put some very specific things so that Minecraft does recognize this as a resource pack. I actually almost never do this part from scratch, and because the syntax is important, I'll generally copy and modify my pack.mcmeta file from another of my packs. You can go ahead and copy and paste the text for your own pack.mcmeta file from the description below, but let's still cover it in this video for the sake of clarity. We can define a description, which is an easy identifier so that we can find our pack in-game. We need to set our pack format for whatever version of Minecraft is the main version that this pack is intended for. 75 correlates to the pack version for 121.11. While I can't remember if it's required to include this minimum and maximum format, I think it's a really helpful thing to add, as it essentially tells Minecraft that there's a range of Minecraft versions that this pack is compatible with. In this case, the minimum format of 69 correlates to 121.9, and then as we said before, the max format of 75 will correlate to 121.11. Once you add all that information to your own file, go ahead and save. And then back here in Minecraft, if we go ahead and head to the resource pack section, we should be able to find our Model Applier tutorial folder if it is correctly being identified as a resource pack. At this point, make sure to go ahead and actually apply your pack so that we know any of the changes we make in our tutorial today are actually being applied and seen. And from there, let's talk about models. Item models are actually kind of the bread and butter of this whole system. You create a model, slap some textures on it, and you tell the game how to use those bits by defining the model with an item model definition. These will get stored in a specific folder of our resource pack, and it's actually what's being actively referenced by the Model Applier pack once we tell it to. This is where I tell you that I actually have done a video dealing with item model definitions, and you can find it linked in the card in the top right. While we are definitely going to refresh some of that information here, I think that can be a really helpful resource if you're still wanting to learn some more. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some models I've already prepared to see how we can get your pack set up and make sure we get your models in the right location. I've got a selection of items in this chest here that we will be transforming over the course of the video. We will start with this iron nugget here, which with the power of Model Applier, we can turn into a propeller hat that we can actually put on our head. Now if you happen to not already be familiar, let me introduce you to a software called Blockbench. This here is Blockbench. It's a 3D modeling package that is perfectly suited for making models for Minecraft. You can see that we have our model here in the viewport. We can see all of the individual elements that make up that model on the right here in our outliner. And down here on the left are our textures, and you can see that we have a main propeller hat texture for all of this. And then we have this propeller spin texture, which actually can be used to make the propeller spin like this. Magic. Blockbench can be an incredibly powerful tool for actually making your 3D models. Some people opt to use it as well for doing their textures. I tend to find myself doing a hybrid approach where I use a bit of Photoshop and Blockbench when I'm creating my textures personally. But Blockbench can also be really helpful for diagnosing our models and making sure they're actually ready to be put in game. as well as making sure that our model and our textures are how we want them to be. We will want to double check our display context by coming over to this display tab in the top right. This is where you will define how your model will look when a player holds it in their hands, or when they wear it on their head, or when they have it on the ground, UI. All of them can be adjusted up here in the top left. But if we take a look specifically at the head here, we can see that we have the hat nicely sitting on our head. We can adjust it up and down if we want to. We just want to make sure that our head isn't poking out through the top like this. But overall, our model looks pretty good, so let's see about getting it into game. We're now going to go ahead and export our model and textures from Blockbench if we haven't already done that before. This will also require making some more folders in our resource pack, so if you haven't done that yet, please follow along. In Blockbench, we're going to go up here to File, and then Export, Export Block Item Model. Go ahead and find your resource pack. You can see we're at the root here of our Model Applier tutorial file. You will first want to start by creating a folder called Assets. Inside of that, you want another folder. This is what's known as our namespace folder. It can be whatever you want it to be, but it's important that you know what that is, as it will be referenced throughout the pack. You can see here that I've elected to name my namespace Braze Stuff. If we go ahead and double click that to open it, you'll see that we have a number of other folders here, but right now we're only concerned with this models folder. If you don't have a models folder, go ahead and once again right click and create a new folder called models, and it's important that you make sure that the folder's name is all lowercase and does have an S at the end to make it plural. Inside of our models folder, you can create this secondary folder called item, and then this is currently where I personally have all of my models saved right now, including, you can see that we have our propeller hat model saved here. Secondarily, we also need to make sure that our textures are actually also saved in the correct place. So if we head back into Blockbench and go back over to the Edit tab, we can right-click our individual textures to click Save As. Once again, navigate to the root of your Model Applier tutorial folder. This time, we're going to go ahead and go into our Assets folder, Braze Stuff, and then here, if you don't already have it, you're going to create a new folder called Textures, again, all lowercase with an S at the end to make it plural. Inside of there, we will put an Item folder, and then you can store your textures here. You can see I have my propeller hat as well as my propeller spin textures both stored in this location. Okay, I know that was potentially a lot of information thrown at you all at once. Go ahead and refer to it as many times as you need until it makes sense to you. But the final piece of our puzzle is the item model definition. Item model definitions are so powerful because we can flexibly define which models we want our item to use in a number of different contexts that we can define. I actually really like the droid model that Hoffen made for Scar as a perfect example of how much you can actually do with this system. The droid has custom models and animations depending on which hand you hold it in, if it's sitting on your head, and even depending on which dimension you're in. As another fun example, we can take a look at my trick-or-treat pumpkin basket here. We can see that there's a unique model for when we hold it in our hand, as well as when we take a look at it in the GUI, there's a unique 2D sprite to represent it. As an additional fun detail, it's a bundle, so when you actually put things inside of it, it has a whole new texture that has some candy inside for both the 3D and 2D model. And both of those applications are really cool. But before we look at the more advanced things we can accomplish with the item model definition system, let's return to our propeller hat model for a simpler example. Let's again return to the root of our resource pack folder here where we have our assets folder and our pack.mcmeta file. Open up your assets folder, your namespace folder, and then here we're actually going to create again a new folder called items, plural. And then this folder is where you're going to put all of your JSON files that are going to be your item model definitions that define your models. Let's open up this propeller_hat.json and see what's inside. This here is essentially the simplest version of any item model definition system. You can see that it's so simple because it's only referencing one model, in this case our propeller hat. We're not doing anything special like looking for which dimension we're in or looking at the display context of the model. We're simply saying we have one model we want our item to use and telling the game where to find it. I've shouted out this resource before, but it's so good that I do it every chance I get. Mizo.io has a bunch of different generators for different things you might want to do in the technical ends of Minecraft. And they have an item generator that will help you to write your item model definition files. The link for that will also be in the description. And make sure to refer to my item model definition system video for more of an in-depth tutorial on how to use that resource. To change the item model definition to fit your own needs, you just want to double check that here the namespace is consistent with whatever you chose, and then this is actually going to be the name of the model that's being referenced. Go ahead and make those changes to reflect the model that you're working with, and that should be all of the files correctly set up and ready for Model Applier to apply them in-game. Firstly, we need to make sure that the Model Applier data pack is installed correctly. If you've already attempted to install the Model Applier data pack on your own, and you hit Escape, and you see this Model Applier tab, you're probably good to go. For the rest of you, let's really quickly walk through the process of installing a data pack into a world. Here on the Modrent homepage, we can search for data packs and search for Model Applier. And this is the one we want here. Head over to the Versions tab, and we're going to download this 1.6.3 version of the data pack. Go ahead and save that somewhere easy to access, like your desktop or your downloads folder. With that successfully downloaded, we now need to get it into the folder of the world that we want to use our models in. If you play with the Java Minecraft launcher, the easiest way to access your files is to either hit the Windows key in the lower left corner here, or by hitting the Windows key on your keyboard, and we're going to search for %appdata%, and then we're going to hit enter. That will bring us to this roaming folder where we can see we have a .minecraft folder. Go ahead and look for this saves folder, and inside you should see all of your worlds. If we open up the folder of the world we want to install the data pack to, we can see there's an easy, convenient data pack folder, and we just want to go ahead and drag and drop that in there. If you're currently in that world when you installed the data pack, you're actually going to need to leave and come back to it for it to be reloaded correctly. But following that, you should now be able to see this Model Applier tab in your escape menu. Now that we've ensured that Model Applier is correctly installed in our world, let's go ahead and take a look at how we can use it to apply our item model. If I go ahead into our chest here and go ahead and just take out this iron nugget, it's just a regular iron nugget, just like any other iron nugget you would find in the game. But if we go ahead and pop it into our anvil, and what we're going to do here is it's based on the name. We're going to start with our namespace, which remember we've been using Braze stuff, colon. And then if we want to turn it into our propeller hat, for example, we would just type in propeller hat. The important part to remember, obviously, is your namespace, as well as whatever you titled your model that you saved into the items folder. And now that we've named our item, we're going to go ahead and hold it in our main hand, hit escape, and go to Model Applier. Click on this Model Applier tab at the top here, and then the left one, Apply Item Model. That will then look for the model at the thing that we named it, and you'll see that our item that we're holding will then turn to the correct item model. And we now have our propeller hat. To even take it one step further, you can see that we can't actually put this on our head right now. It's just currently an iron nugget that looks like a propeller hat. But if we go ahead and again open up the Model Applier, we can see that there's this Slot Applier tab, which will allow us to be able to equip the item in different slots. So if we click on Slot Applier here, and then Head Slot, we can now right click and we can put that on our head. So stylish. Ooh la la. And the same thing will actually go as well for if you're trying to replace the look of a helmet when you wear it. So obviously, let's go ahead and take this off. This is just a normal netherite helmet here. But if we wanted it to look like a custom helmet, we would again pop it into the anvil here. And this time I'm going to do Braze stuff. And then I have another model, the hat here. And then again, we're going to hold it in our main hand. We're going to go to Model Applier. Once again, going to Model Applier, Apply Item Model. That will change it to our lovely bee hat. This was featured in our last episode on Rotten Block, where we built our honey farm and things like that. Check that out. The funky thing that can be a little confusing about applying item models to a helmet is that if I was to then put this on my head, you can actually see that it still looks like a netherite helmet rather than looking like our bee helmet. To fix this, we're going to go ahead and de-equip that helmet. Once again, hold it in our main hand and open up the Model Applier area. And if we go ahead and do Slot Applier Head Slot, that's going to override what the item model looks like when it's on your head. So now when we equip it, it effectively works correctly. We can see the lovely buzzing bee head. Having creative access to models like this is a really fun way to add a little bit of extra spice and creativity to your worlds, or maybe even your video content. They're super versatile, and in the right hands, you can do some pretty powerful things. Now that we've thoroughly covered the application of item models and even using them as helmets, let's see what other kind of custom armor and elytra things we can achieve with Model Applier. While it's very nice and convenient that we can get custom item models to work with our head as a player, that's actually a very unique attribute of the head slot. What I actually mean by this is that all the other armor and equipment slots in the game are actually dictated by an equipment model, and we're a bit more limited in what we can do to customize these things. With the help of mods, there are ways to modify equipment models, but we're not going to go ahead and get into that in this particular tutorial. In the context of what's possible with Model Applier, we are limited to only changing the textures of equipment. This is also something that we will achieve with our resource pack, but we're going to have to set it up just a little bit differently than how we did the models and textures earlier. We're now here in Photoshop taking a look at the vanilla texture for diamond armor. Armor is actually broken up into two separate categories. There's humanoid, and then there's humanoid leggings. For some reason, they decided to dedicate a separate texture to just the leggings. That means that our humanoid texture here covers the helmet, our chest plate, and our boots. Now, as I said prior, with equipment models, we're limited to only modifying the textures. The game already has vanilla equipment models for the different pieces of armor. Our limitation with equipment models is that we're bound to the texture space that is already being used. If I go ahead and toggle this layer on, you can see that I've shown the layout of the UVs for the different individual bits here. This red one up here is the helmet. This lower left one is the boots. And then the yellow and green is a mixture of the chest plate and the arms, which make up the chest plate armor piece. We can add or modify any of the pixels within that space, and they will be represented in-game once we do that part. But if we draw outside of those lines, we're effectively doing nothing because none of these will ever be rendered onto the actual model. The game just simply is not looking at any of the pixels in this outside space. Now let's take a look at this bunny slippers example I prepared. If we toggle that layer on again, we can see that all of this art here is only being applied to the blue area, which again we said is our boots. We've got the cute little bunny face at the front there, and then it wraps around the outside, and then this is going to be the bottom side of the shoe. This is all that's required of our texture to be applied to a pair of boots. Let me once again show you guys where to save everything so that it can be all called by Model Applier. From whatever art package or wherever your art file is, we're going to once again go to the root of our resource pack, go to Assets, into your namespace folder, head into your Textures folder, and then you'll see here that you'll want a folder called Entity next to your folder called Item. Once you've created that, go ahead and click inside of your Entity folder. And inside there, you want to create another folder called Equipment. And then from here, go ahead and feel free to create a folder for all three of these here, humanoid, humanoid leggings, and wings. We'll cover the wings example in just a second when we do our Elytra, but you might as well make the folder while you're there. Now, since we modified the humanoid texture, we're going to double click inside of the humanoid folder, where we will then save this as bunnyslippers.png as we've done here. And perfect, that is step 1 of our 3-step process. In step 2, we need to define our equipment model by pointing it at our new texture. Let's once again head to the root of our resource pack, head into Assets, your namespace folder, and then here we're going to create a folder called Equipment once again. Do not confuse this with the equipment folder that is already inside of Textures Entity. That is a separate equipment folder. We want to make a new equipment folder that is inside of our namespace folder. Inside of this new equipment folder, this is where we will save our JSONs, which are our equipment model definitions. Inside of bunnyslippers.json here, we can actually see that the equipment model definition system is super simple. Here we've included humanoid so that we know that the equipment model we want to be utilizing is the humanoid model. And then here we've supplied the path to the texture that we want it to use. Here you're only required to use your namespace and then the correct name of the texture. We don't have to do anything like this, for example, because it's already looking for textures in the equipment folder in this space. This part is essentially implied. Once you've written the equipment model definition with all the changes that apply to you, go ahead and save it in that equipment folder. As a helpful little tip, if you're creating a custom item that has a special equipment model texture as well as its own item model for maybe when you're holding it in the GUI, you might find it useful to name the files for your equipment model definition as well as your item model definition to the same thing. This simplifies the process when it comes to Model Applier in-game when you need to apply an item model as well as an equipment model. As an extra visual to further clarify that last point, I've got this 2D bunny slipper texture here. This is the texture that will replace what the boot looks like when it's in your GUI. I've saved that bunny slippers texture into our correct textures folder, made a model file in our model folder that we can see is correctly looking for that texture. And finally, we have this bunny slippers JSON file inside of our items folder that we can see is correctly looking for our new bunny slippers model. We see that the name of our item model definition here matches the name of our equipment model definition here in our equipment folder. Since we've made some changes to our resource pack, we're going to go ahead and hold F3 and then hit the T key to reload our resources. And now that our resource pack is up to date, let's see what happens if we reach into our chest here, grab our iron boots, throw them into the anvil here, and name them Braze Stuff Bunny Slippers, and hold on to those. Once again, we're going to hold them into our main hand. And let's go ahead and start by just applying the item model to them. We'll hit Escape, go to the Model Applier tab, Model Applier, and then Apply Item Model as we've done before. You'll see that now our iron boots look like the bunny slippers texture, but if we apply them, they're still just iron boots when we wear them. Essentially, we've applied the item model definition, but we haven't applied the equipment model definition. To apply our equipment model, this time we're going to hold our item and hit Escape, go to Model Applier, and then this time we're going to do Apply Equipment Model. Now there's a bit of a quirk if you're doing this in a single player world, because while this dialog option is open, the world is technically frozen. So when we click on this Equipment Model button here, you'll notice that it just goes back to the game menu here, but what should have happened is that there would have been another window that popped up. If we hit Escape, you'll see that it now popped up to this Choose Equipment slot to use. Since we want to apply the equipment model to our boots, we're going to click on this feet slot here. Now, we equip these, and we can see that it's correctly looking at our custom bunny slippers texture. These things are so freaking cute. Now we're looking super stylish with all of our custom items, but the final thing to complete the ensemble is going to be a custom elytra. We can get ourselves a pair of custom elytra very much in the same way that we did the bunny slipper boots. The only difference is going to be the folder that the game is looking for the texture in. If we head back to just inside our namespace folder one last time, and then open up the equipment folder, we'll take a look at the skeleton elytra JSON as our equipment model definition example for making custom elytra. We can see that this equipment model definition is actually very similar to the one we created for the bunny slippers. You might remember that just a few minutes ago, we created a few different folders called humanoid leggings, and wings. And you can essentially consider those the layers, quote unquote, that are available to you inside of the equipment definition system. That's just a fancy way of saying that if you're changing your elytra, you're going to want to put wings in this category here. And then inside of textures, entity, equipment, we're going to want to put inside of the wings folder our skeleton elytra PNG. The equipment model for elytra is just a little bit more awkward than the equipment model for the armor, so I figured it'd be worth covering really quickly here. This is the vanilla default texture for the elytra, and if we toggle on our layer here, you can see this yellow part is going to be the back of the elytra, which is the most prevalent visible part of the elytra. This mint portion is the inner edge of the elytra, and then this purple section over here is the outer edge. While it's not used by the vanilla texture, you could use this magenta section for the back of the elytra, though it's not super visible in-game. And then the texture for the top of our elytra will be here in the blue section, and the bottom of the elytra will be here in the red section. Looking at our skeleton elytra texture here, we can see that we have most of the design here in the yellow section, with it wrapping around on the inner side onto the mint section here. We did a little bit of a top like collarbone design on the top part here, with just a single column of pixels here on the outer edge. Now, for the sake of demonstration purposes, we'll get a fresh elytra and pop it into our anvil here. For the last time, we're going to input our namespace, and then the name of our custom elytra. We'll grab that out of the anvil and put it into our hand again. I'm going to hit Escape, Model Applier, Apply Item Model. You'll see once again that handles the item model when we're holding it in our hand, but the elytra is still wrong. It's still currently actually based on the cape that I'm wearing instead of the custom texture that we've applied. So we're going to hit Escape, Model Applier, and then this time, like we did with the boots, we're going to hit Apply Equipment Model, but then we need to hit Escape so that this new dialog window pops up. And since we're doing elytra this time, we're going to do this chest slot. Now, this is the bad one. If we put this on, you can see that it's worked. And now we're fully decked out in all the Model Applier goodness. I really hope this tutorial was structured in an easy to follow way. I know that the information we covered is dense, if this is all new to you especially, and I tried my best to keep it in digestible chunks, but I encourage you to watch back through this video and use the timestamps if you're confused about any part. Please also feel free to ask questions in the comments, or join my Discord link in the description if you need further assistance. And also remember to grab the template pack from the description if you're getting stuck anywhere, so you have a working example to compare to. If you want to unlock more of what you can do with item models, I recommend my Power of Item Model Definitions video, where we cover that more in depth. And if you have any resource pack related questions, I'd definitely love to answer those, so please leave them in the comment section below. These videos take a lot of work to create. Please remember to like the video if you found it useful and you think I've deserved it. Subscribe for future tutorials like this, as well as my Braze World Survival series, and Rotten Block Season 2 just recently kicked off about a month and a half ago, and we've got a few episodes there, and we're not stopping anytime soon. Definitely check that out if you're looking for some fun survival experience. And with that, we've had a lovely time learning some new things today, but I'm going to leave you there, and we'll see you guys in the next wonderful tutorial. Thanks for watching. Bye.